get it started. Let's get it cooking. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody watching. I am Woof.
And I am a Billi Free. Today we have the lovely Laura Bustillos Yaquez. She is a documentary filmmaker and photographer at the helm of Labu Productions in New York City. She continues to push boundaries and shape narratives that resonate globally. Welcome, Labu.
Thank you. Thank you, Billy. That sounds so beautiful when you say it.
No, pleasure's all ours. We're gonna check out a song from season 15 of this Coke Studio Pakistan. Hey, Billy can't wait. She's already.
We're fans of season 15 here. The level up is ridiculous.
The song is called Maghron. It's by the Sabri Sisters. It's a pair of sisters, and it looks like an R&B or hip hop artist, Rozeo. I don't know how to pronounce it. It could be in English. It may not be in English. Who knows? We'll find out. And 3, 2, 1, play.
Coke Studio, Season 15.
Ooh.
सुरमा लाके बैठी गजरा पाके बैठी दुखड़े पहले आले मगरों लाके बैठी निमुकड़ा हंसदा मेरा मैं नजरा लाके बैठी मैं कोड़ा बोल ना बोला मैं मिठा खाके बैठी फुल्ला वाली टोकरी मैं रोड़ती निक्की निक्की गल्ला नहीं सोचदी सुरमा जी अखां ते हत्थां च मेहंदी मुखड़े ते टोए वेख दिल मेरा सेंटी अज किते वाल शाल सेट मैं अज मुंडा चिकना ते टैंडी टुरना वा अगरा ते मगरा नु छड्ड के गट गट हिल रे ओ चाच मैं के वद के जिथे सोना दिल बोले चले जी ओ खिचलावा नाल मैं डैजी हां बाजियां दी मिठी मिठी गल्लां आई लाइक इट हार्ट ऑन माय स्लीव जिवें चूड़ियां कलाई ते सुने अज मुंडा निका तोड़ा टंगा चंगा फिर बलुडी छुड़ी पाईए चेक करो दिल वाले यार ने धक धक सज के अखियां मिलांदे ने दां बानी तकदे गल दी मैं छड्ड दित्ती गल ते बकाया ओ जी जान दे तां हंस के भुल गई जिवें भुल गई मैं वंडा चूरियां रंग लाली दा चढ़िया हो गईयां पूरियां जे अखियां प्यार करन ते समझो कदवी टह गई थोड़े पैर जतर के फिकरा सारी ले गई मैं गल्ला करदे करदे मैं गल निराली कह गई मैं जिब्बे झूठ न बोली कि कसमां दिल च बह गई
Hmm.
नजर तेरी सजा दूं जलवों पे तेरे में लुटाऊं कसम तेरी फिदा हूँ ये महफिल तेरे नाम तू बोले तेरे लिए सब खो नचा दूं रुला के सब नखरे जान दे जिते ले चले रात जो मगरों ला
What is that?
Beautiful.
It's so pretty.
I could smell the flowers in this video. So basically, this is like wedding culture, mainstream like wedding cultures in Pakistan. This is one of the 50 like functions they have for the weddings, right? This particular one essentially is called the Mehndi, which is like a informal function held at usually the bride's home, where people just family comes over and they just dance and they get ready and that type of thing. And this is basically what it's really showing.
Mm.
There's usually marigolds and jasmine flowers are like traditional, in most of the households there. Although marigolds here were, I think all I saw was marigolds and maybe some roses. Kind of interesting. And the two women singing, it's really interesting. They sing a religious music type of music usually, where they sit down, and it's called Qawwali music. That's a Sufi aesthetic, essentially Sufi music. But they're singing, a non-Sufi song here, a wedding song, and they've paired that with some like a rapper, which is really, really interesting to me. I mean, there's more I could say, but that's sort of like the context. It's a wedding. It's a wedding song. It's basically takes place in a house, and this is what my wife's mehndi looked like. I was there too, and we all danced.
2 whole floors of
Yeah.
shenanigans.
Yeah.
I'm really attracted to the cultural preservation and how this very like contemporary feel, like bringing the rapper and these like young people. It's very interesting how that the culture is kept alive in that way, right? Where it's like made cool for young people. I find that really beautiful.
Well, what you said caught my ear, because I think of young people, particularly like in the United States, more westernized. When we think about having to go to a wedding, generally it's not something that you want to do, right? So I think it's interesting that it's not that perhaps it's not an attractor to this sort of cultural event, but it's an addition based on like what we think the younger people might like. We think the younger people
Right.
might like a rapper. So without even them having to ask for it or having to cry about having to be there or not having to be attracted to the event, but just already it being a part of their lives. Maybe they even want to go. I mean, I always wanted to go to weddings because of the food, not necessarily because of the like party, but I think that's an interesting cultural piece there.
Right. I think maybe as an immigrant myself, like staying close to culture is not super easy. And I think a lot of the things that like I've had to do in my life is break through a lot of like cultural ideas and so on. So that's why I'm attracted to that in this particular video, where it's like young people partaking in something that feels like it's been alive for a long time. And then I love seeing the elders kind of like looking from the side, as all the young people are enjoying themselves and keeping this sort of like legacy alive. That's really interesting to me.
Yeah. I thought it was super, again, very lovely, very, compared to some of the other videos we watched, very feminine. I don't know if we've watched such a feminine video before. There's been others, but this is like, they took it to like the next level. Very soft, very sweet, so many colors, so many smells, and I love it. I love that there were lots of women featured and of different age groups, and also lots of young people, just like young, lively energy. permeated this whole video.
One thing that I was kind of scrolling through and I remembered, sort of veering off topic, to the instruments. So two of the instruments that I've that are, or three of these are that are shining is like the drum. That specific drum, it's used in like weddings, specifically in weddings, right? It's like boom, 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 boom. And what happens at these mehndis, which is also the word for henna. It's mehndi is basically when they put henna on their hands, during this function. During the mehndi, everybody sits down and takes turns singing. Here's that singing element again, right? So like people are it's very important to sing, be able to sing if you're from, that region. So essentially it's like a karaoke contest in-house, Um, so that drum is like, if you ever see that drum in somebody's house, they recently got married or they're about to get married or somebody's getting married, so it's a very cool instrument. It's really fun. The other instrument was called the shehnai. It's like a little short flute.
Looks like a little like trumpet.
Yeah.
That little one.
Yeah. That's been a traditional wedding instrument. It's thought to create sanctity and auspiciousness. As long as I can remember, in all cultures across South Asia. When I hear
The sound really stands out because I heard it the first time and I was like, what is that? And like I caught a small glimpse of it as the camera moved. And then I was like, what? I hope they show it again. And they definitely showed it again. I'm glad they gave it some shine because it's a very distinct sound, even with like, I'm sure it was like effect and mixed.
Yeah. I'm willing to bet the guy that's playing it plays that one instrument for a living. There's a really weird instrument I saw. It's like an electronic version of that wedding drum. At like 309.
Yeah, like a drum pad or something.
Yeah, it's like it's like 309. I don't know if they've improvised it, but I've never seen. This is like the wedding drum, right? The wedding dhol, but like it's electrified somehow. 309. What the fuck?
So it's basically like a sampler. And they come in different like styles. One that I use that's very popular is called SP404. One that's also popular is the Ableton Push. And basically, this person took samples of the actual drum and mapped it to a pad or an area on the machine so that you can basically just play it. You can play it as a drum, but you're playing in a piece of electronic equipment. And we've seen this.
I'm saying. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, please go ahead.
That's what I'm saying about the merging of like something so traditional and ancient and then like this very new, like contemporary sounds that make it attractive to younger culture. Like that is fascinating to me. I love how culture evolves.
Yeah. And it's also a way to like preservation culturally, but also preservation in a very physical sense. I mean, people 100 years from now are going to find laptops and be able to access the information on there. And when the actual drum from which it was sampled is no longer exists, they're going to have this sound of it's been digitized, but they're going to have this sound and still be able to like feel the frequency. And for me, I'm all about epigenetics, and it's like in a very bad sense, right? Where there's like generational trauma, but there's also like generational joy. Like you can still access the feeling, you can still access the history, even though the vibration might be more digitized than it is like natural or coming from a more natural source. So
yeah, interesting.
Super great.
You're very optimistic, Billi, that we will actually be here in the future. Humanity.
Some form of us.
Yeah.
Also, I really loved the overhead shots of the hands with the henna. Like those were just my favorite shots throughout the whole video.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, the one with I think it was rice, and they were passing the rice back and forth in the hands. So lovely.
There's one shot where, more than just the usual like henna designs, there's actual I don't
It's
know
like
what
portrait
the
in there.
deity is. Yeah, like some sort of portrait, and it's so
Yeah.
detailed and beautiful.
I'm glad you brought that out because I was just like, I wouldn't put it past Coke Studio to like, maybe that's like the executive producer or something, but I like the idea of it being like a deity more than like somebody actually connected with the.
I suspect it was one of the singers or
Oh, okay.
Oh, I see.
because I think they're the main characters here, right? Veering off to the lyrics here. They're really saying, I'm kind of tired of like the negativity. I'm here to party. I don't care. I just had something sweet to eat. I brushed aside
Mhm.
all this nonsense. I got my hair done. I got my nails done. That's basically what she's saying. Got my eyes all, looking good and all that stuff. My hair is so fancy, it's styled, and I'm good to go. And the guy is
But
saying
I
the
think,
same exact thing.
sorry, just from the captions, there was something also saying like she said all of that, but also like a self-worth affirmations, like I'm enough, or
Yes.
Yeah.
things like this, which I find so beautiful. Also the what the guy says, like this is celebration is about you, and
Hmm.
I will make people dance to like honor you, and it goes back to a Billy's comment about this being like a really feminine video, right? It's like there's like this praise to the feminine part of this celebration.
I stand corrected.
Yeah.
I see that now. I see it. I see it. No, you're right. You're right. Oftentimes, and as a guy, you don't realize that because male privilege, especially in developing world countries. But some these places are very safe places for people to step up and sort of just let loose and do whatever, and hang out and dance and sing and be empowered. Looking good
Mhm.
in a very safe space, and you can essentially be a a princess and or bride or somebody that you have a captive audience that is cheering you on. Everybody's dancing and people are doing their numbers and that type of thing. So I could see that. I could totally see that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also see it like on a collective level. Like I think that it was so full of activity, and of course there was like they were focusing in on like the singer at the time, but it seemed like there was always either something or someone like moving in the background. And so I think for me, like, right, like if somebody's like praising me, right, in a particular situation and it's just me and with a whole bunch of people, I don't know, maybe it's the Aquarius in me. I just feel like really uncomfortable, right? But if I'm being praised as a part of a collective, which I feel like these affirmations were being saying like to like a group of people, like this very like collective love. It just, I don't know, for me, it sets the bar higher. It has packs more of a punch. It has more of an impact. And particularly as we've learned in context, like these are group situations, these are collective situations. And so just to pass that love around is so nice. And I also feel like it's a wedding song. It was sort of based in this like wedding context, but I just feel like if you're going out on Friday night with a group of your like homegirls and homeboys, like this is also a nice song to like throw on as you're getting ready.
Yeah, for sure. Sure.
I needed that today. Like, yeah, I got flowers in my hair. I look good. I feel good. Like, that's the vibe I need for the rest of this solstice day.
Let's go. Yeah, also very well done, Ali, for the solstice.
The
I want to talk about we've touched on the instruments. But I want to just call out there are so many instruments featured in this video, which I think is lovely. There's just so much to like eat and drink with the eyes. But I also, and the Sabri sisters, like, I think because they were like enmeshed with a whole bunch of people, it was sort of hard. And maybe the audio mixing, it was like, it wasn't like, superstar, singing this part, right? For me, it goes back to the collective as like the texture of their voice, the timbre of their voice sort of just settled right along with the instruments. And it wasn't stand out, but not in a bad way. It was like we're all part of the collective. And so I thought that was really interesting because sometimes we watch these videos and it's very like obvious who is singing right now and that they have their spotlight. But again, rolling back to this collective piece, it just seemed like everything was sort of set at a similar level
Yeah,
to just let the whole ensemble shine.
interesting. The Sabri sisters, they're not big artists. Neither of these people are. They do come from a family of Qawwali singers. I think that family's been singing devotional Sufi music for hundreds of years, at least 200-300 years, as far as I know. Now there's families that have been singing this type of stuff for close to 1,000 years. But they come from a pretty, and it's mostly the Qawwali genre is mostly dominated by men. But obviously we've heard Billi and I have heard like Abida Parveen, which is like she's the queen of Qawwali music.
Oh yeah, never forget that one.
Yeah, so essentially it's like Sufi devotional music that, and so they have swagger. Uh, and I think what the composers of the song they kind of take the vibe of the artist or the indie artist and they kind of mix that and they create the song based out of that so it doesn't feel too out of place when they're singing. I think the rap part is interesting. It's just how Gen Z is invading our spaces, right? Our artist spaces, our music spaces. We don't, it may not necessarily something my first choice, but they like it, they're making it work. It seems like, yeah.
I mean, and it's in context, it's not he's not like in there talking about like bitches and guns, you know what I mean? He's saying like this is like super lovely and also like showcasing
That's right.
like the feminine side, like what we would think of as feminine, right? Like we're happy, we're joyful, we're sweet, we're soft, and we're strong and we can have a good time. And we prepared all of these things for you. So I think it's a lovely song and an even lovelier video.
Just want to shout out to this random thing I saw in the video. He's like leaning against the window frame or the door frame, and there's an auntie next to him. She's like super enamored with him, right? And he looks at her, acknowledges her, and then he kind of like, and this
Oh yeah.
improvised. This is like a superstitious thing, which I love that people do. He acknowledges her, and then he kind of leans in, and what she does is she does this. Means I'm taking your bad vibes. Let me have them. Go have a good time.
Wow. And I feel like, see, that's what I was saying about, I love seeing the elders. It's almost like they're giving the blessing that there is all of these like fresh elements in how they're
Yeah.
keeping the culture alive. And the elders are saying like, it's okay. We like that you're keeping us alive, even if it means we have rap now, or these instruments that we didn't know before.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, maybe they don't understand it, right? But they see that there's joy in the younger generation with these elements. And they're just like, I don't care what it is, as long as my baby is pleased. That's really lovely.
It kind
That's what we should call this whole video title, just lovely, because
of
everything
lovely.
is just lovely.
Maybe I will. Maybe on the thumbnail I'll just say lovely, quote and quote.
Also, costumes, hair. I mean, the details here is
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
On
Wow.
point, everything.
It is beautiful. Growing up at every wedding, I've seen this play out in every single wedding I've ever been to, right? Every single mehndi I've ever been to. You walk into a room, there's two sisters fighting, and then they pose for the camera, and then they go back to fighting, right? They had that scene in there.
That was in here,
I've seen
yeah.
that scene play out millions of times. You walk into another room, there's two aunties like looking at the clothes, best one to wear, so they don't accidentally match and fuck up each other's vibes. they're kind of, that type of thing. And there's like people make there's a dude making food in like this huge containers with a little wooden stick, just because you can't make food in the kitchen for that many people, even though it's a family function, you have to do it outside with like 3 or 4 massive pans where there's like 5 dudes or people dedicated doing this shit like for hours, you know.
Amazing.
There's always like those older people that are not interested in stuff, but they're like peeking from behind windows because they really want to be part of it, but they don't want to be seen being part of it. So like it's just, I thought it was really cute. And then like the whole thing with like the evil eye, the thing. There's not even a word for it,
I'm gonna start doing that too. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean,
yeah, like you have that.
You would get mad props.
Just random folks on the street.
If an old brown person saw you doing that, you'll get mad props because it's only done with good intentions. Like,
It's like, let me carry the weight of your worries.
Right.
Like you're young, enjoy.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I always thought it was hilarious when I was a kid. I was like, why are they doing that? But I get it now. I get it.
Now you get it.
Get it.
The world is rough.
There are also some like Mughal era art in the background. I couldn't make head and toe of like why that was there. From the Mughal times, but maybe it's the art decor of the house they're in. I don't know. At 257, there's like behind the guy. There's this beautiful painting.
Okay.
It's a very super Mughal era art of like the Mughal emperors, and I'm not sure what that is doing here, but yeah. But it's part of the region, I guess. It's cultural heritage.
And I'm also interested in how the other musicians, like the guy with the drum set, and so there's like 2 or 3 men playing these instruments, which is the drum set and then the machine, right? And they're in a different room that feels a little bit more like masculine. They're not in the space that is like feminine. I don't know if this is a cultural thing. But like visually, it definitely like separated them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that, especially the guy like on the like crap set, on the drum set with the longer hair. He had the headphones on, he had like dark clothes on. It was kind of sort of like a darker room. Interesting.
The one thing, now that you mentioned that, the one thing I noticed, there are people almost at every wedding, at least in Pakistan. It might be the case in India too. I don't know anything about Indian weddings. There are people present at weddings, almost every wedding, that are of dubious gender. They're part of the wedding. They're usually there to sing and dance as entertainers. Now, they don't have that here, but if you go back to 8 seconds, the first person you see, it's not quite a dude. It might be a woman.
The person holding the flowers in the box.
So they gave like that gendered identity like a dignified like role here. I feel like typically there's trans women dancing at weddings, as entertainers, and it's oftentimes I thought it was in bad taste and undignified because people are sort of throwing money at them and making them, they're there to earn the money anyway, but like it just didn't feel right. But like this is such, I don't know, maybe it's just kind of a tasteful little detail here. Trans people are pretty common, at least in Pakistan. They have their own like recognized gender in that country, but they're not always treated right. But I thought this was really a beautiful detail.
It is, especially after all of this analysis on like the feminine, masculine, and then now that you mentioned this, like the first person who welcomes us into the video is this like androgynous person.
Exactly. Absolutely. I'm really proud of this effort.
I'm I don't know why this is coming to my mind, but I'm thinking like I don't know if this is common in many cultures or not, but I know, for example, in my family, my grandmother, as she became older, she became this kind of androgynous person. She was just like this wise older being that like she wasn't like a woman, she wasn't a man, she was just like an elder in the family. And I feel like that happens a lot with like in Mexican culture at least, like when people get older, they or women specifically, or like men too, like you don't know if it's grandma or grandpa or it's just like grandparents. And so it's interesting too that the person opening the video is I mean the person looks older, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you know, not like the younger folks that are dancing towards the end of the video. So um very interesting cultural elements here.
All of these things are like trappings, right? Like I think that there is like feminine presentation and masculine presentation, but then there's just like feminine energy and masculine energy. And sometimes those two can intertwine and sometimes they're not, and sometimes it's neither, you know? And I that's a really interesting concept that you brought up, you
I'm
know.
interested in learning the different like gender expressions um
That's powerful.
in Pakistani culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
That are probably ancient, you know, not like
Yeah.
this Gen Z thing. It's like something that's been around for a long time.
I'm no expert, but I know if you were interested, you can look up the word hijra, Higra.
Drop it in the chat.
Yeah, and they were basically courtesans that would entertain the courts, and they were during the at least at least in the past millennium for sure, and this millennium as well. You know, during like all the empires that have been there, from the Mongols that invaded, from the Mughals to the Hindu empires and the Buddhist empires, the hijras have been sort of like a constant, and I suspect it's why there's an acceptance of that identity in places like India and Pakistan. There's a level of like they have some cultural privilege they're entitled to, and everybody accepts that. And I'm sure there's like more literature on it. I'm no expert on any of this stuff, and not on hijras anyway. And I feel bad, genuinely feel bad for some of these people. You know, this is entertaining at weddings is what they do. You know, they should be entitled to better opportunities. Um, well, thanks for exhausting all your notes and energy on this fine solstice afternoon.
Yeah.
You know, it was a pleasure having you on, Labu. You know, your
Thank
insights are so
you.
valuable. They're just so valuable. So thanks again for being with us and bringing all your insights, both of you.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me. So fun.
Yay.
Till the next time.